Hey everyone, welcome to Tuesday edition of Take 5, where we've been taking about 5 minutes. In this season, we've been taking 5 minutes in Proverbs, but in wisdom literature, starting next week. I know I said it was going to be on Thursday. Starting next week, we're going to be in the book of Job, and then eventually in the Song of Songs, taking the words of wisdom and applying them right to where we live today. So I wanted to end Proverbs today, and then I want to do something as well with Proverbs on Thursday, and then we'll pick up Job. And so we've been looking at different topics, and the topic today is a hot one, in both literally and metaphorically. The book of Proverbs talks a lot about the issues and the problems of lust. And let's face it, we live in a society that is driven by lust. We live in a culture that's obsessed with sex. And so the timeless words of wisdom from Proverbs are really wise words that every one of us need to hear, whether we're married or single or young or old or male or female. And Proverbs does a really explicit description of lust and its problems and its traps. And so I'll let you read some of it. Proverbs 7, starting in verse 6, is what my Bible calls it, a story of seduction. Just starting in verse 6 and all the way to the end of the chapter. And it reminds us of the trap, of the poison that lust and sex and illicit relationships and pornography and all of that can be. Now, let's just start by saying, first of all, from a biblical perspective, from a human perspective, sex is a good creation of God. And He meant for us to enjoy it, and to enjoy it in the right context, in a sense with abandon, but in the right context, like with anything. That's the key. And so what Proverbs warns us of is what we see today is just the danger of a good part of creation, a good gift from God, just abused in really dangerous ways. So let me just read to you a little bit from Proverbs 7. I'm going to read verse 22, and then I'm going to read verses 26 and 27. Actually, 25, 26, 27. Here's 22. Talking about a guy that's being lured into something illicit, something dangerous. Here's what he says. He follows her impulsively, like an ox going to slaughter, like a deer bounding toward a trap. Earlier in the verses, it talks about how enticing she is, how alluring she is, how her words are so alluring, how her body is so attractive, how the situation is so tempting, so that she'll even say, "Come to my house, my husband isn't home. I've spread coverings on my bed. Come, let's drink deeply of lovemaking until morning." This is a woman calling. Again, it's a metaphor in a sense of this is anything. This isn't just the prostitute in the street. This is your neighbor. This is the office relationships. This can be anything. And be careful of this. And so the passage ends this way. Don't let your heart turn aside to her ways. Don't stray onto her paths, for she has brought many down to death. Her victims are countless. Her house is the road to Sheol, descending to the chambers of death. And so I guess I would conclude this way. What wisdom is telling us about the lusts and the desires of our flesh that are dangerous. First of all, be aware that we live in you know this, but I'll say it again, we live in a culture obsessed by sex. Everywhere you go, you see it on the television, in the market, in the grocery store, and all that. Be aware of that. Beware of that. She's brought many down to death. It'll ruin you. illicit sexual relationships, or just the constant lust, whether it's pornography or whatever your habits, it'll ruin you. It can destroy your marriage. It can destroy your natural desires. I had a young couple. I did a wedding for them several years ago. They came to me a year or so after their wedding. Beautiful young couple. And he wasn't interested in her at all. When we got down to it, it was because he was addicted to pornography. Be aware, but beware, it'll ruin you. And then be wise. Do the wise things. Have accountability. Speak openly with friends. Sometimes you might need stuff on your computer to block it, or anything like that. But be wise in here. Don't let your life be ruined by this wonderful gift that God has given us that's gone awry. Proverbs talks a lot about the lust of the flesh, about this whole issue of lust and sex gone bad. You need wisdom here. Be aware that it's everywhere. Beware, it'll ruin you. Be wise. Be prepared to not let it ruin you. Thank you. I'll see you Thursday.